Welcome back to OpenLine. Thank you for being with us tonight. Tonight we're talking about the origin of the opioid epidemic, which started in the 90s with Big Pharma. And I have two guests to help me walk through this, and also a special event I want you to know about happening this Thursday at the Capitol Theater in Lebanon, and it is free. Please come out and join us. I know that you will learn a lot. I think that you will leave with some hope about where we are headed and how we can do better as a society. We have Susan Shaw here from Drug Free Wilco, and also Dr. Stephen Loyd, who's been a part of the Hulu series Dopesick, and has walked this journey himself of addiction and recovery. Thank you again for both being here. Susan, I want to start with you. I want people to know about this event Thursday because plenty of seats available, free to come in.
Yes, It's Thursday night, like you said, at the doors open at 6 o'clock at the Capitol Theater, and the event is from 6:30 to 8 o'clock, and then from 8 o'clock on, Beth Macy is going to sign books. She'll have her book there, Dopesick. Tickets are available on Eventbrite, and they are free admission available. The Eventbrite link can be found on Drug Free Wilco's website, so www.drugfreewilco.org. And it pops up right on the front screen. So.
Good. And we're also putting it on newschannel5.com. So if that's easier for you, you can find the link there and get to where you need to go. But 6 o'clock, it's doors open, Lebanon, Capitol Theater this Thursday. Come out and join us. What do you think people will take away from this?
I think they're going to learn a lot. They're going to understand that it's in our community. It's something, it's a problem that we can't avoid, that we shouldn't avoid, that we need to listen to people, that the impact is in Wilson County also, you know, statewide, nationwide, but it's in Wilson County. And to really understand, I think, and particularly with Dopesick, is this thing with the pain medicines, you know, to learn a little bit more about it, because everybody gets prescriptions. You know, if you have knee surgery or anything, you'll get a prescription for some type of an opioid. At least you used to all the time, and it's gotten a lot better, actually. But to understand how you can prevent problems, you know, lock them away. How long does it take to get addicted? I think, Steve, you said, you know, maybe 5 to 7 days is all. Who knew that?
That's scary. That is very scary.
And if you got a prescription from your doctor for 30 days in the past, and you're used to taking antibiotics, and they always told you take every one, you have to take all of them for it to work, you would think the same thing with opioids, and it's just not true. So I hope that people will learn some things, and hopefully they'll be curious and learn more, and just try to you know, learn some prevention also.
Yeah, I want to really focus on what Dopesick focuses on, and that is where this all started, because we are now in the 3rd or 4th wave of the opioid epidemic, but it started with pain and a prescription drug that you got from your doctor, and here we are today with this huge epidemic. Talk about how this started.
Yeah, it's amazing to look back on it, Carrie, you know, the time frame that we're talking about. So, you know, we've known opioids have been addictive forever. I mean, all the way back to the, you know, time of Hippocrates. I mean, it's a long time. Civil War, you know, the United States, our soldiers got addicted to morphine. It had a name called the soldier disease. We've had 2 opioid epidemics already in the United States, the early 20s and then the 1970s. So this is really our 3rd big one. And so we've known the dangers of opioids for a long time. And so we knew of the addictive properties, but in the late 1980s and early 1990s, as a result of input from mainly pain organizations, which, you know, very few people bothered to look at, all had their origins in industry and pharma, said, you know, we're doing a terrible job of treating pain, and we're, you know, people's livelihoods are being compromised because of pain. They're having worse health outcomes, and we don't need to be as scared of opioids as we are. And so there's a drug, actually, MS-Contin, which was a long-acting morphine, but it was morphine, right? And you hear the word morphine, so that has a connotation to it, right?
You know, it's serious.
Right, it's serious. And so, you know, the patent was running out on it, but it was a sustained release. And so the market is like, well, you don't have to take it as often. You're not getting those quick reinforcement benefits of it. So, you know, it's less addictive, although there's nothing to support that. And so, you know, the Sacklers and Purdue Pharma, you know, had the drug oxycodone. Oxycodone's been around a long time. We've seen it in Percocet, right? I mean, people have heard of those drugs. So oxycodone is the parent drug in Percocet, which is just oxycodone, acetaminophen, Tylenol. So the oxycodone is then, you know, packaged in a sustained release, just like the MS-Contin, and it doesn't sound as bad as morphine.
That's right.
You hear, it doesn't sound as bad. It's actually 1.5 times more powerful. So 1 milligram of oxycodone equals 1.5 milligrams of morphine. So it's actually a more powerful drug, but it doesn't sound as bad. And the Sacklers have a long history of marketing drugs, right? The Arthur Sackler.
And when we say the Sacklers, it's Purdue Pharma.
Right, Purdue Pharma.
Yeah.
All right. So the granddaddy of them all, Arthur Sackler, was the brainchild behind the marketing of diazepam as mommy's little helper, in the 1960s. So the history of that goes back, and so it was, you had this pain organizations, and by the way, before we go any further, I don't want to discount people with chronic pain.
Right.
The pendulum can swing too far, and we need to make sure that those folks have access to medications that they need, because they are truly life-saving. But they marketed OxyContin on a broad scale, from
everything from tooth pain
name it,
to chronic pain.
All right.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to take it twice a day, right?
Yeah.
It's just a twice a day drug. And it turns out that wasn't true. And it had a high abuse potential. And now you need higher and higher dosages of a long-acting medication. Now you need short-acting medication in between for something called breakthrough pain. And then if people needed more and more of it, it wasn't because they were becoming addicted, it was because you weren't treating their pain appropriately. And so this word came about called pseudo addiction. And all that is portrayed in the Hulu series Dopesick, and it all happened. And so, that's kind of where it came from. And so, OxyContin was marketed to levels of pain that it should never been used for, right? The benefit did not outweigh the risk. And then Purdue Pharma intentionally was not truthful about the addictive potential.
And they knew it.
They did know
That
it.
is what Dopesick points out so well, is that they got this coveted, I guess, without the black box warning from the FDA, which was like a big, big win to get around.
Right.
So they could sell it to doctors in a different way, or push it to doctors, in a different way, saying, this will be better for your patients. And that really allowed them a broad spectrum to make a lot of claims that they knew were not true.
Right. So pharma markets their drugs to doctors. Everybody knows that. And they have their promotional pieces. But what's really key is the FDA package insert. Right? That little insert that comes in there that nobody reads. Right? But it's very key, because that's what the FDA says. Right? And that's an independent, supposedly independent organization, regulatory group that is not going to let anything promotional get into package insert. Right? I mean, and we know that. And yet in their package insert for OxyContin, it said it may be less addictive. And that's not true. And there was nothing to support that. And it turns out, as you see in the Hulu series, is that the doctor who got that through from the FDA now works for Purdue Pharma.
Right.
So it stinks all the way around, obviously. And then now you have, and I tell people this, what doctors learn in medical school about the treatment of acute and chronic pain and about the proper prescribing of opioid pain medication for those things is very little. People would be shocked. Right? It's almost nothing. And so if they didn't learn it in medical school or residency, where did they learn it?
That's right. They're learning it from the drug companies. Who have the salespeople coming into the office.
And if you look at who was targeted, they didn't target pain medicine specialists, right? Anesthesiologists who are board certified in anesthesia, who've also done a pain medicine fellowship. They target a busy, overworked primary care physician in rural Appalachia, who's got a waiting room full of patients that are all angry about being there.
And also, they targeted cities where people have hard labor jobs, where they can be injured, and they also have to be at work to support their families. There's no plan B.
No choice. If you're working in Appalachia and you're a coal miner and you lose that job, what else do you do? Right? And those are good paying jobs. Now, obviously a lot of risk, dangerous work, a lot of health consequences, and we won't even get into the mining aspect of it, but not a lot of choice. And so yes, these are the folks who are targeted. I actually went in a coal mine.
You did?
I grew up in Northeast Tennessee, and so when I started treating addiction, I had miners as my patients, and one who was the foreman of a mine in Southwest Virginia. And so one Saturday I went up and I went underground, and I've never done anything like that. When I got in this little cart and I rode forever laying down, and when we got in there without my light, I could not see the end of my nose, and they work in there 8, 10, 12 hours a day. I had to get out in 20 minutes and work on their knees. I mean, this is hard back break work, right? And so I could have imagined, because I know the effect that opioids had on me, I could have imagined how that would have helped even outside of chronic aches and pains, right? Able to deal with it, just like me, when I first started using it, helped me deal with the things in my life that were really hard to deal with. help me deal with that 12-hour shift. All right, I get it. And then the thing is, the dependence process on those drugs starts at about 3 days. And so when you're fully dependent, you can't feel normal without it.
Without it,
right?
yeah.
So you can see where all this came from. And then, it says, well, if they're needing higher and higher dosages, it's because you're not treating the pain well enough, so you need to keep pushing the dose. And I thought that the series did a really good job of showing Richard Sackler, as the dose. They were actually getting ready to market a 160 milligram tablet. And if you think about that, it's 240 morphine equivalents.
That's crazy.
It is.
That's crazy.
It
and
is.
no one was saying, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. I mean, it took a long time for people to say, we've got a problem here. All right, we have to take another quick break. More when we come back. Stay with us.